Hey, what's up everybody? Nexil here today. So today we're going to go over something that's still showing up on the Reddit pages and everything, and that's the topic of guilting. So pretty much if you've been keeping up with my channel, I did upload a video about guilting, one of 4, that was called Should I Guilt My Metals, which was pretty much talking about if you should combine your metals as opposed to keeping them separate. In this video, we're actually going to go over what guilt is, and pretty much it's going to be an informational video on, you know, pretty much all things guilt, but I do have 2 more videos coming up on this, so this is pretty much going to be strictly what is guilt. So what is guilt? It was originally presented as the sins of Heartless in the original Kingdom Hearts Kai, and like it is in Unchained Kai, it was a way of powering up your medals or your cards. Again, I'm not really sure. I haven't actually played Kingdom Hearts Kai, but essentially, yeah, it was a means of powering up your medals or cards. Just, keep those 2. So, in the original Kingdom Hearts Kai, guilt was given by defeating particular promotional Heartless within a time frame. So let's say, let's compare it to the hide and seek event for Alice in Wonderland. Let's say there was a Heartless in there, and every time you defeated it, it would give your medals like 1% guilt. So you'd pretty much do it like 25 times, and I would guess you'd get like 25% guilt. However, once the promotional period ended, you would lose all that guilt. So, pretty much, guilt in the original version wasn't permanent. Luckily for us, with Kingdom Hearts Unchained Kai, guilt is permanent, so once you obtain it, that power bonus never goes away, ever. So to get guilt, you first have to defeat Quest 200, Story Quest 200, and once you do, Truthy will give you this item called a Power Bangle, and that'll essentially allow you to start guilting medals. So fair warning before we go any further in this. In the original version, it was called Guilt. In the translated version, it became Max Special Attack Bonus. So if you've ever seen that term floating around, it just means guilt. They're both the same thing, essentially. So hopefully it's not confusing to anyone who's like hearing the terms for the first time. So what does guilt look like? So guilt is this icon at the end of this row of orbs or dots or circles or whatever you want to call it. It'll only show up on 6-star medals. So for example, this is what activated guilt looks like, this little glowing thing with the number next to it. Inactivated guilt is like this little icon here that isn't glowing, there isn't a number next to it. But that's pretty much what guilt looks like in its active and inactivated forms. The thing is, you cannot guilt a medal that is 5 stars or lower. So as you can see on these 4-star medals, there is no guilt. Even on the 5-star ones, there is no guilt here. So you can only guilt 6-star medals. So you can't get that extra bonus with like 5 or lower star ones. Now what does guilt do? Guilt gives you an extra percentage to your multiplier. So it's not going to increase the strength of the medal when you attack, but it will increase your damage multiplier, making your attack more powerful. So that was something I couldn't wrap my head around for a bit. So what do I mean by that? So first of all, these orbs here, they're like your pathway to guilt, per se. And as you increase these orbs by combining medals of the same name and same rarity, this damage multiplier that I'm circling here, this number goes up. So for example, I have, in a weird sort of unfortunate way, 2 versions of Kingdom Hearts 3D Sora. Now, as you can see on this one, I only have 3 of these dots filled out because I was only able to get, that many. And I attached them all together and got 3 of them onto this one here. Now, that makes my damage multiplier 3.47, as opposed to one that I have that's been fully maxed out, so all the orbs are lit, and the icon is glowing, and its damage multiplier is 3.91. So essentially, guilting a medal increases your damage multiplier. Just again by adding orbs and then finally the guilt. So what does the guilt do? The guilt increases your damage multiplier by this percentage. Now, what does that mean? So, for example, on this one, the damage multiplier is this 3.91. It's going to gain an additional 14% when I use this metal special attack. So, with 3.91 being the original multiplier, times 1 plus that 14%, it's going to make the new damage multiplier 4.46-ish, roughly. So essentially the guilt is another way of increasing your damage multiplier, which in turn increases the damage that you put out when you use the metal special attack. So what does that mean? So if a metal has 100% guilt, it would double the damage multiplier for that attack. But again, that's a really, really, really high number. For the most part, you're going to be sticking to like lower numbers, like anywhere between 10 to 50. So as you can see on some of these, like the nodes are different. So this one only has like a single node here. This one has 2 nodes. Do I have one that has 3 nodes on it? Yep, right here. So this one has 3 nodes on it. And I know for sure I only have one that has 4 nodes on it, and that's going to be my dark side right here. So this one has 4 on it. So what do those mean? So pretty much those are the levels of guilt, and I have this picture that I copied off of the Kingdom Hearts Insider version of the guide. Now these are pretty much the 4 available levels of guilt. This one, the one on the very far left, is pretty much a low rarity guilt, and this is going to be the guilt that's present on the 6-star forms of like the farmable metals, so like Pain, or like Riku, like the Fairy Riku, the Thief Riku from Final Fantasy X-2, or like Sora version A. That's going to be present. So the level 1 guilt, or I guess the lowest form of guilt, low rarity guilt, will be on those metals. It could give a max percentage bonus. So again, the percentage was that number at the end of that line of orbs. It'll give a range between 10 to 25%, meaning that the guilt for any metal with this singular node will have a maximum guilt of 25%, but the range is 10 to 25. So the second one here will give a guilt bonus of anywhere between 20% and 50%. So if you look back this video on that Mushu, it had those 2 nodes, like the thing that looked like 2 nodes. That means its guilt will be anywhere between 20 to 50%. A high rarity metal like the Alice that I showed you just a second ago, it can have a guilt of around 40 to 100%. And then finally, with the 4-node one at the very, very far right, the red and orange one, that's going to be super high rarity metals, and they can have guilts of anywhere between 60 to 130%, which is really, 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 really high. So to close out this video, let me show you my Riku that I have completely guilted out here. So this Riku has a guilt of 22%, which is kind of on the high end of its range. So it's a singular node, and like I said earlier, the single node ones can have a guilt of anywhere between 10% and 25%, and it's really, really random. So pretty much you don't know until you guilt the metal what the number is going to be. But yeah, this Riku's guilt is 22%, when at most it could be 25%. Unfortunately, because I don't buy too many of the metal packs, I don't have anything more than just the 1-node ones. But, you know, just to support that that argument that it's only between 10 and 25%, there's another single node that's only 12%. This one's 25%, and when you hit the maximum, actually this is orange. So this can't be any higher than 25%. This walk is going to be 19%. And essentially that's the trend. So again, for the low rarity ones like this Riku here, it's going to be between 10 and 25%. For the slightly more rare ones like this Hercules, it's going to be anywhere between 20 to 50% for the medium rarity metals. For the high rarity metals, it's going to be this 3-node one, and that's going to be from anywhere between 40 to 100% gilt. And finally, for the super high rarity metals, which is this 4-node thing, once you gilt it, its gilt is going to be anywhere between 60 to 130%. So pretty much that's the whole entire guide I have for what is gilt. For how to obtain these little yellow orbs thingy, and then eventually how to gilt the metal entirely, stick around for the next video, which is coming up soon. Till next time, guys, take it easy.